If you want to make a difference and leave a legacy, I would tell you to find a mentor and seek knowledge. Then turn around, find someone else who needs a mentor, and continue to pass the torch. All right, we are on another episode of Pass the Torch podcast. We're here with Mari Stracke, who is a German writer-producer who has established herself firmly in London's film industry and is part of the female-led production company Seek Films. As a teen, she gained TV experience as a represented actress before assisting at State Theatre of Lower Saxony. In 2006, Mari moved to the UK to study film directing and producing at Newport Film School. After graduating with distinction, she was chosen by Skillset for training director scheme and sent to various festivals, including Camera Image. To build her network, passionate about empowering young women, Mari taught filmmaking in Germany before finishing her master's in scriptwriting at Goldsmiths University of London. Mari has won various script awards and received BAFTA bursaries. At present, she is producing a slate of high-quality short films and is developing a TV show currently in its funding stage. That's amazing. She is also a well-known Instagram blogger for mental health and body positivity. That is exactly how I discovered her. In her free time, Mari loves street dancing and enjoys long walks with her rescue foster dogs. With that, welcome to Pass the Torch podcast. Glad to have you.
Hi. Hello. Hello from London.
Hello from London. I love it.
And thanks for that kind introduction.
Absolutely. I hope I did not butcher it. There were big words in there, and I'm not the smartest human being on this planet, so
it was perfect.
But you were very accomplished, and I'm very excited about sharing your journey with our audience and just learning a little bit more about how you got involved in everything that you're doing right now. It's pretty amazing. So my first question is going to be, how did you start? Like, what's your why for being on the journey you're on?
I always wanted to work in theatre and film. From, I think, I don't know, very early on. I remember directing when I was 6. We did Snow White in the street, and we just got all the chairs from our neighbors and my house. And my mum came back home, and all the chairs were missing because we had built like a stage and, you know, a place for the audience. And then we just performed there, and it was always kind of me who told people what to do. So sometimes that worked well, sometimes it didn't so much. Some people don't like it in the playground, but I was always the one who invented the stories and wanted to put things on the stage. And then, for example, when for my 13th English language is not my first language. Let's just establish that right now. I'm German.
Yes.
So on my 13th birthday, I got a video camera, and I knew that I was going to get it, so I invited all my friends for my birthday party, but they received a script before, a few weeks earlier, and they had to learn their parts, because you know how it is as a kid on your birthday, you can kind of force everyone to do whatever you want.
That's right.
Your day. It's great. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to shoot a little film, and you have to learn your parts, and you can't argue about who's playing what, and that's going to be my birthday party. So that's what we did, and it was a lot of fun to, for the first time, have an actual script and directing my friends and then editing. I don't know if you ever did this, but back then there wasn't any kind of editing software that I could get my hands on, so I had the VCR machine, and so you...
Wow.
So you stop and then you record, and it was a long process of editing, but it was a lot of fun, and I think that's really where the journey started from that. But I always knew that I had to do something to do with storytelling in one way or another.
So as a kid, birthday parties in the neighborhood. Did you take that into school with like extracurricular activities, or how did that
Um,
continue?
yeah, I did. I did cats when I was 10, and that
Nice.
yeah, and that received some local press,
Yeah.
but it was actually a little bit. It was difficult because I had parents calling me about the parts of their children and that they weren't happy with what parts had been assigned, and I found it retrospectively, I find it a little bit strange that my parents just passed on the phone to me and let me deal with these other parents. But
Yeah.
my parents are old hippies, and they were like, okay, well, you do your thing, and you can handle the responsibility. And so I remember having to deal with all these frustrated parents while the kids were fine. But that was something that I did within the school environment. And then later on, when I was 16, I think I did my first placement at the theatre in our city, which is a really big state-funded theatre. And that's where I then worked for 2 years straight after graduating from high school.
So to be clear, when you were doing Cats, you were the one who was putting on the production, not trying to get into the production. See, usually, especially at that age, my brother and I did acting. My younger sister did acting. We were just trying to get the parts, and here you are, actually putting on, which is a huge undertaking, the production yourself. And parents, parents can be the absolute worst, and I agree 100%. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
my child is the, I'm probably gonna get in trouble, but my child's the most talented, and no one else can compete with them, and I can't imagine, uh, what that would be like to have to deal with that type of feedback, especially so early on. But I imagine that's helped prepare you for where you are today.
Yeah, it definitely has. Um, um, I think there are like pros and cons to this because
Yeah.
I do feel I've never really been a child. I feel like I missed this sort of carefree time in my life because I always had these projects that I really wanted to get off the ground, and
Yeah.
my dreams are very big. So, the pressure that I put on myself has been always very big.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the journey with mental health issues such as depression and anxiety that I'm tackling today on my Instagram, that sort of stems, I think, a little bit from there, something that I discuss in therapy, that it's great that I could have this experience, but giving a child that kind of responsibility, although I wanted it desperately, it, I wasn't quite equipped for that.
Yeah. It's
It
intense.
has pros and cons,
Well,
definitely.
I can absolutely say this. Your Instagram profile immediately jumps out, and it screams energy and passion and just warmth. And that's something that I was like, okay, I need to talk to her, find out what her journey's like, and I was immediately drawn to it. And so I can say, you say that you haven't had a childhood, but your personality is it imbues that creativity, and that passion of childhood. So something's there. I don't think you missed out complete. You had a lot of pressure, but you have that, and it's hard for me to even articulate. But it's this intrinsic atmosphere and aura that brings me back to my own childhood, and that says you're allowed to be creative, you're allowed to be you don't have to be what everybody else says you have to be. And I'm telling you, you don't even write those specific words through your profile, but I get that, and you might not hear that all the time, but I'm specifically telling you that's what I got through it.
Thank you. That's very that's always touches me when people say that, because it has been a longer journey for me to get to a point where I feel comfortable with just who I am.
Yeah.
That's not something that has always been there.
No.
And that is, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here now, but this is what the Instagram for me has become about. It's really about, it's to embrace who I am, and that is fine. I have flaws, like a lot of them, but it's fine. It's who I am. I only have myself to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And with that comes a huge amount of freedom, because it means you really on my Instagram get who I am. Like, there isn't anything else to me. I can be very goofy, I can be glamorous, I can be very upset and crying, and the whole thing is there. So it means I don't have to be fake ever, and that's so lovely. Especially having worked in the film industry for about 10 years now. Oh my God, like being myself is just so much easier. It's just like, I don't have to try very hard, and that's very nice. I'm just me, and like what?
That's real. Yeah. That's absolutely it. Take us back to like the first post. What inspired you and said, I'm going to tell my story now and share this journey with other people?
Okay, that's actually not a funny story, but it's a story. So, because I came very late to social media, it's been, I think, about a year now on it, so it's grown really fast. But the reason why I actually went on Instagram to begin with was because I have written a TV show, and that's about myself and about me dating in London and failing at that and struggling as a film person and being a German in London and all these things that you are faced with in a crazy different country, especially London. And I was heartbroken. I came out of a very long 11-year relationship and was 29 and was faced with Tinder, and I really had no idea how to do this. So naturally, a lot of heartbreak happened over the next years, and I was crying, and my friend said, okay, do you know what? It would be quite funny if all these stories wouldn't have happened to you. They're really quite hilarious. And I was like, okay, let me cry. And she was like, no, why don't you just write it? You're a writer, you might as well write about yourself. And I never wanted to really write about my own story, because I've been told in film school you need some distance to your characters, and you can put your own experience into it, but disguised, and not just here, this is the character and I'm also calling her Mari. But I dropped that advice. I was like, no, actually, I'm just gonna write it. So within 2 weeks I wrote the pilot, and it got attention from some producers in LA, which I was just incredibly lucky to be connected with at that time. And then it came up that I might as well play myself when we come to shooting it. And as I was an actress back in the day and did some TV stuff, some horrible, don't ask me what it is, some horrible, horrible TV stuff back in Germany, I was like, well, if it opens marketing avenues for you guys so that you can say this is super authentic because she's written it, she's acting in it, and the character's her, fine, I'll do it. But I don't necessarily have to be on screen. That was never really the deal of it. But I agreed to it, and so they then said, you need to grow an online presence. You need to have something so that we can show investors that people are interested in you, or people would follow, whatever you have to say. So I chose Instagram because I take pictures of a lot of things, and usually I would just send them to everybody on WhatsApp, and now I'm like, okay, well, just put them on Instagram. Although I wasn't a big selfie person before, but they seem to work with my very long posts about the world. And also I have some lovely followers who just love the red hair, so
yes.
I need to give them something as well.
That's part of that warmth.
But so that's how that came about, really. It was sort of I needed to get a little kick from someone else to start doing it, and then I really enjoyed sharing stuff about mental health, because that's something that we just need to address so much more. And I didn't want to be one of those people who puts up glamorous posts and just shares how wonderful life is, because life is very diverse and up and down, and if we don't share that, then people just think if their life isn't always up here and great, that they're doing something wrong. And I just I also felt like my TV show really does talk about a lot of awkward fails in the bedroom as well. and shows sort of the good and the bad and the ugly, like all of it. And so if I don't want to be a hypocrite and then be on Instagram like, oh, look at the curls.
Yeah.
Yay, it's just not me and it's not truthful. And I think people today really, they can smell whether you are fake or not. They just know it. So the more authentic I've become on my Instagram, the more I shared, the more I got feedback and personal messages where people say, hey, we're actually really liking what you're putting out there. And yeah, that's that.
I love it. And it's super, or how do you say this in German? Is it super? Is it Zupa? It's super genuine. I'm just trying to throw the German flair on there for other people, but it is. It's you are letting people see who you are in a genuine way, but still doing it artfully, creatively, and beautifully, and that's very hard to do.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Really sweet.
So, I'm just curious, what is the future for the story look like? What would you say, like, this is what success for me, whether it be the Instagram or directing, what does that look like for you?
So at the moment, what I'm focusing on are various things.
Yeah.
I'm building up a production company with my friends called Seek Films, and under that banner we are developing quite a few different creative projects, like a feature film. We're doing this TV show that we're rushing through the funding stages at the moment, which is quite nice. It's going quite well. It's called Not the Middle, because everything I do is very extreme.
Yeah.
And then I'm obviously also building my audience on Instagram. And for me, success would be to have the TV show properly in production and have distribution attached to it. I would absolutely love that, because I think we're also addressing quite a few issues in that show. It's entertainment, so it's comedy, but at the same time we're sneaking stuff in, like mental health issues and body positivity and all those kind of little things that we really believe we want to change. We do want to have women on screen that have normal bodies, that are not extremely skinny. And we also want to address, for example, mental health and men, because that hasn't been addressed at all. So we're having a black character who is in therapy, which I feel very passionate about, because I just feel like male suicide is something that really gets no attention. And there's so much pressure, especially on certain ethnicities, certain backgrounds, to be the man, and it just doesn't fit with the modern world we are created anymore, and so it results in a lot of very serious issues. So that's one of the things. If that's successful, I can, I was going to say I'm ready to die, but I'm not ready to die. Just, but like I'm accomplished. Yeah. And then also off that and off the Instagram, I would love to increase my work more as a speaker for mental health. And just because I have my own journey to share, and I've had a very severe suicide attempt in the family, and that's also where I learned that sweeping things under the carpet never works for anyone. So it's really important to use my voice in the media, and the more I can build an audience for that, the happier I will be, I think.
Definitely.
That's my success.
Well, I think we keep speaking about your Instagram, but it's because it is that powerful. Instagram, especially your long form posts, like people who do take the time to read that, they're going to get a lot out of it. But definitely, I think something you can appreciate from acting and producing as well is, and I talked to one of my sponsors. He's a great family friend. His name's Bill Largis. He's the artistic director of the Washington Stage Guild in Washington, D.C. But I learned from him a lot of things as well. But it's so special when you have an audience. whether it be a play or television or a short film, whatever it is, for that amount of time, you have their undivided attention. And the message that you're trying to push to them, they are extremely receptive to it because they are there for that one reason. What story is Mari trying to tell me? And what message am I going to take from it? So I think that's incredibly powerful, and I'm excited to see where this takes us.
And in terms of mentorship, that's actually a good point because I always wanted to have a mentor. Unfortunately, I only had like short-term mentors that were there for various like specific projects or like short times in my life. And for me, the Instagram audience has become, at least is covering that part where a mentor encourages you and empowers you and believes in you.
Yeah.
And so that's really lifted me off the ground so much that there are people who value what I'm writing and will also send me a message and say, hey, I really needed to read something like that. I feel a lot less alone today.
Yeah. That's
just hugely inspiring to me. And that's also where I feel I want to give back to the community around me because I would have loved to have a mentor like 10 years ago when I tried to get into the film industry or theater or any of that. I would have died for a person who would have just taken me by the hand and say, hey, Mari, this is the way we're going. You know, call me anytime. I help you. I would have loved that. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have it.
I'm going to connect you with Bill Largis, and I'm going to send him this show. He's going to be like, what are you doing? No, I love the man to death, and that's very an actor thing to just go the extreme. I love him to death. No, I do. He is they call him sponsor families, and he's our sponsor dad, and I see him as family. But he's someone that I think you would definitely get along with, and he has a lot he can offer you, and then just you and your experience can even teach him, because that's how mentorship works. It's not just people who've been on this planet longer than you that can offer you guidance. It's also people who have different experiences. So your peers.
Yeah.
You're already teaching me a lot. So
connect me. That's great.
Yes.
That's amazing.
That's what Mentorch is about, and we'll hopefully when the platform comes out, it'll be super easy and you'll be able to connect with a lot of people. But yeah, that's going to happen. So 10 years ago, you said you would have loved to have a mentor. Do you have a mentor in your life right now, or are you still now?
No, yeah. I think I mean I'm 33 now, although I look incredibly young. I do.
You do. That's a good way. Yeah, I still get carded everywhere I go. They're like, they look at my wife. They're like, "Is this little boy with you?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's my wife." Anyway. Yeah, but it's okay.
But it's the same. It's the same for me. And I mean, as an actress, it's probably amazing. But you know, as an authority on set, it's a little bit annoying because I work a lot with men, and then you have to prove yourself. And so I don't have a mentor right now. But I think what I started to do is actually mentoring some people who are just starting out in their careers, and I find it hugely inspiring to do that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how familiar you or the listeners are with how you get into the film industry, but you always start as a runner. A runner does everything, has to do the coffee, has to do the errands, is the worst job on the planet. You usually get paid nothing or like very little, and you're expected to do that for a while. And people treat you badly. It's sort of, you know, how it goes. And so I have like a few female runners who are 19 and 20. And I met them at a film festival, and they were very excited about just being there. I mean, they're so young. And I just thought back at the time when I was 19 and I just left high school. And so I grabbed them and I was like, do you know what? I think you need to get experience on set. Because they were just shooting their own little videos and they were very excited. And I was like, that's great. Keep doing that. If you want to direct or if you want to act, do your own thing. But you need to have experience in the real world. So if you want that, I can put you as a runner. Now I probably can't pay you on most of the projects because the positions aren't paid.
Right.
But however, if you work your way up, I will get you work in commercials, and they are paid very well.
Mm-hmm.
So and they were very, very keen. And I was so happy because I've offered this to people before, and some young people just say, I don't want to work for free, or I don't want to be on set and be sort of in the lowest of the food chain position. But these girls were just so enthusiastic. So they immediately followed it up and with emails, and then I got them on a music video and a short film, and they were fantastic, like hands down. And I was so proud of them.
Yes.
So obviously I'm going to rave about them and say, hey, they're really young, but they're so passionate about this whole thing. So you want to have them on set. And I love building up people and seeing where they can then go. That's just, I don't know, it gives you this warm, fuzzy feeling inside that you're making a huge difference to someone. Because you just open the door a tiny bit for them, and they march right through. And and that's just incredible to be part of that and to be able to do this tiny thing for them. So that's, I think, where for me mentorship has taken the turn, that I have become a mentor for others, and I just love it. I love doing it. Anyone who wants to approach me with anything, any help I can give, I will, because it's just makes me feel amazing.
Huge.
Just that.
Huge. I was talking to my brother when I started this whole adventure, and he was like, hey, so when you find mentors, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to pay them a lot of money? Like, how are you going to get them to sign up? And I looked at him, and I tried to not just shake that question away, because for me it was so obvious, and I think for you, when I say this, you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense too. But from a business standpoint, I was like, yeah, how am I going to attract them? But for me, from your answer, we just love doing this. Like at a certain point, that seeing someone grow and you were able to contribute to their lives and their journey in such a positive way is a huge payment in itself, and it's greatly satisfying. So that's just reinforcing that idea. It's too cool to have someone come back and say, hey, you positively affected my life, or I was lost at this point, I had an obstacle, and just taking the time out of your day to talk to me helped me get through that hard time. There's nothing better, and it gives me chills. And I say that all the time on the show. People are like, okay, what are the most things said on Pass the Torch podcast? And it's probably that gives me chills and like, oh, that's super cool. Like, but the chills thing, because you're truly someone who cares, and you care about seeing people build up, and that's, I think there's more of people like that out there, like you and I, and so there's a whole community that can be built around this.
Yeah, and I also think that often people don't see that there isn't competition as such. Just like we can all work together on various levels, and there doesn't have to be this fear of but what if they get better than I am or more successful? That's bullshit. I mean, at the end of the day, we are a community on this planet.
Yes.
And we can only work together to make it better. And especially in the film industry, competition. I mean, in film school, we were 80 people on the course, and that included cinematographers, directors, producers, actors. So we're all in the same course. So we're about 7 production teams, and the competition over the 3 years was fierce. And I never understood it, because with this tiny, film school bubble, why we compete with each other instead of saying, hey, we're all at the same place, we're all learning at the same time, we're all going to make mistakes, and we might as well really empower each other rather than say, well, my graduation film was better than theirs. I just think people, this is something that I'm so fed up with, this sense of competition and not community. And that I'm also trying to talk to people here, to say, guys, let's just make it happen together, because we're just going to be so much better off together than, and don't get me started on the whole UK leaving Europe thing, because that's opposite. Oh, yeah.
Yes, the political sphere.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm sidetracking.
No, you're good. You're good, and
Politics.
you're absolutely right. We touch on that a lot. Actually, Kelly Hall, the last podcast guest, talked about working together, compassion, not competition, as well. So, literally back to back podcast, we've hit that theme. So there's something to be said about that. And both of you are people who are successful and working hard and looking around, and you're not saying I'm threatened by someone else who's talented. You want to kindle that fire. You want to build them up and make them better.
Yeah, and ideally work with them.
Yeah.
That's the biggest gift. I mean, the more successful you get, the more amazing people you meet as well. That's like the biggest thing about it. You suddenly find yourself working with hugely creative people that are far more creative than you are yourself. Yeah. Like, people bring ideas that I can have, but I can work with them, and for me, that's just, I get such a kick out of that.
Definitely. That's huge. I want to go into two themes that we've kind of talked about, but I think you have probably a very different perspective, but an important perspective on body image and then mental health. So these are two themes that I want to bring out in this show, so that I know there's an audience that is listening, and myself included, actually, I would say, that might not have ever even had the opportunity to know that there's other people that think like them or are dealing with the same thing. So let's start with body image, like how you got involved in that, and what that experience with dealing with, maybe like with other people, and how that's affected you.
Yeah. It's such a big subject. I'm just trying to order my thoughts.
Yeah.
I'll go into this happy place in my head. It's just, the chaos. Anyways, body positivity. Yes, I hate the term body positivity, to be honest, but it is. I mean, we all know what we're talking about then. But my body is my body. At the end of the day, this is what I have been given. Of course, I can try and shape it in various ways. But for me, for example, I've always been curvy. It's just whatever I do, however much I diet, however much I go to the gym or whatever, my hips will always be larger, and that's fine. However, coming from a media background, there wasn't anything, there wasn't anyone on television when I grew up who had an average, let's say average, even if I say normal size body, that's you have to be very careful about what is normal, but say an average size body that wasn't very slim. And I had huge anxieties when I grew up, like probably almost everybody else, about body image and defining myself through my weight. And I remember that when I was 14, I was at a birthday party. God, I'm telling you all about my childhood birthday parties today. But I was at a friend's birthday party, and suddenly this game came up. And up until then, I'd never been on scales. Just didn't. My parents didn't have scales. It just wasn't a thing in my house. We all went into the bathroom. I think we must have been like 10 girls or something, and we were weighing ourselves. And I know that they were around, was it 38 kilograms or something, and I was 42 or 44. And that is perfectly fine for a teenager at that age. However, because they were in the 30s and I was in the 40s of kilogram, I felt like an elephant. I felt humongous. Like, oh my God, I'm so fat. And I look back at these pictures, and I was perfectly fine, healthy. There was nothing wrong with my figure. I wasn't running the risk of having diabetes or whatever. It totally fine. But the anxiety that I went through for my entire teens, and so many diets I tried, is insane. And if I would have seen something on television where, say, a person that is curvy or that is overweight or any of that, I would have, I would have seen myself differently. And at the time, there were only overweight people that were made fun of on screen. It was the funny character. It wasn't just a character who had curves. It was about the curves. And I think what we're trying to do at the moment with our show, and what I'm trying to do with my Instagram, is to just normalize it. Yeah. We all have different shapes. There are a lot of amazing people on Instagram who are a bit larger and who are really embracing it, because at the end of the day, it counts that you're happy. Yeah. And whatever makes you happy, who cares what anyone else is saying or thinking? It isn't any of their business. Unless you are upset with how you feel or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's been a big lesson for me. And it is, if you, obviously you're following my Instagram, so you know it's a continuous journey for me, because I do post mainly headshots or like selfies. A really amazing one, obviously. But full body things I don't often do. But I was recently on holiday in Corfu, and obviously I go with all my media friends who are directors and photographers, and that's really handy. So my director was there, and I was like, you know what, I'm wearing my bikini right now, and they all look like models, by the way, they really do. So I feel like, you know, the elephant. But I said, okay, can you maybe can you maybe do a little photo shoot here? And I'm just gonna lean in the sand and, you know, do this sexy thing. Yeah. And I just had to laugh all the way through it, because I felt so ridiculous, and it's really uncomfortable as well. Like the positions are really uncomfortable. Like you put like your chest out, and then the bum goes in, and it's just really weird. Yeah. So it was more painful than fun, actually. But we got some nice shots. But even then, I felt like, oh my God, am I going to share this on Instagram? It's going to be there forever, because I don't really take posts down. No. If I post this, it's going to stay. No. And then I thought, oh my God, I'm such a hypocrite. I'm always saying, yes, embrace who you are. You know, it doesn't matter. It only matters how you feel. And then there I am sitting with my little mobile, looking at my hips and my belly and my arms, and they're not the way I want them to look necessarily if I compare it to a magazine. Mm-hmm. So what do I do? And I was like, oh God, this is something that you need to post, exactly what's going on in your head right now, because that's what it is about. So I did that, and the response has been overwhelming. In terms of, you know, one person I wasn't so happy with. One person said, oh, you're so brave. And I felt, okay, I don't think I've been brave, because I showed you my body. Yeah. If you think about it, you know, am I brave because I'm being photographed in a bikini? I don't know, but it came from a good place. It was meant in a good way. And so, yeah, for us in the TV show, it's a key thing that we're pitching to investors, that we do want to have women and men on screen that you see in your everyday life. And obviously, most of the audience doesn't know that the camera also adds around 5 kilos. Mm-hmm. So you do look larger, which is why you have all these very, very thin models and TV actresses. But we're kind of saying, you know what? That's the reality of it. Let's add those 5 kilos. Mm-hmm. Who cares? It's about the characters, it's about their journeys, what they're going through, and that you can identify with them. Yeah, and that is where we also get the inspiration that we feel like we're being part of something bigger, like a movement that really goes towards honesty and authenticity in the media.
Definitely. And I know, so yours, because you're a woman, goes specifically to women, but I know that men are looking at there and they're like, they might be, you know, in their corner with the blue screen hitting their face, like, I feel the same way. Because you have GQ and Men's Health magazine, and there's these huge chiseled guys like, you know, Hugh Jackman, and you're like, what? How do I look like that? And if you're not 6 foot tall, I just read a post, and actually this hits me. It was like, if you're 5'6", which happens to be my height, it's like, bro, are you even trying? I'm like, yes, I'm trying, but I can't get taller than that, you know? So you have to be comfortable in your own skin, because I'm not getting any taller. And the guy who might be 6 foot tall and he's a little bigger, like that is his body type. Can you work out and stuff like that? Yeah, there's certain fixes for certain things, but your body is your body. And
Yeah.
and yeah, if I were to sit here and whew, I demoralize myself over height, like I'm not gonna live my life happily. I'm just gonna every day be sad about, you know, the lot and the cards that I was drawn. So it's huge. Guys are dealing with the same thing, and I think it's awesome that they can even take that message from you. And I know that even though they might not be commenting that, I'm telling you what I take from your Instagram is a message that I can share as well, with body image and just being comfortable with who you are.
And also on Instagram, you just all the time see these gym videos and gym selfies, and oh my god, the last thing I want to do is spend 3,000 hours in the gym. I just, but there was a time in my life where I felt like, no, I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I have to go to the gym because this is what the adult does. You know, I live in a big city, and you go to the gym before work, and then you go jogging in the evening, and I hate jogging, I hate running. You know, the only thing I've now discovered this summer is dancing. Oh my god, I love my dancing. But when people tell me, yeah, you know, I don't like jogging, or I don't like the gym while I do it, but you really feel better afterwards, I just feel like, yeah, but while I'm dancing, I actually feel really happy. So why would I do something that I hate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my take on jogging. I don't do it. I don't jog.
I feel it. No, it's an incredibly important message, and it just needs to keep getting told, because the opposite is being told. I'm not trying to blast the media completely, but it's being portrayed as that's more realistic, and it's not. And your voice and it needs to be louder and consistent, which it is right now. And I hope more people are able to hear your message and understand, okay, so I am able to be comfortable with myself. I don't have to adhere to that societal imagery just to be considered a beautiful human being, which I think is crazy.
Yeah. And also they can learn that it is so liberating.
Right.
As soon as you own what other people conceive as a flaw or an imperfection, if you own it, it's yours. It's not theirs anymore. They don't have any control over it. You have 100% control.
Right.
And I think that's something more people are hopefully realizing, that it's actually, you know, if I go out there and I say, hey, you know, my arms are really, you know, quite, you know, flabby and big and I don't like them, then they mind. I said that, and I can still say, yeah, but they, you know, every day I carry with these arms, I carry things, they're doing that really well. My hands are functioning really well. They're doing what they're supposed to do. I wasn't born to have, you know, maybe beautiful arms. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the grand scheme of things, and in terms of survival, these arms are doing a perfect job.
Absolutely.
Everything of my body is doing a 100% fantastic job right now, supporting this organism, and nothing else matters, you know?
I'm right there with you. And thinking about that, and then this is our transition into mental health, because a lot of that, you're like, okay, this is what society says I need to look like, and then you spiral into this place where you're not happy.
Yeah.
You know, and so what, I guess, what's your message to people who are in that place and now they're like, I know this isn't me, and they're trying to figure out what they do next?
I think, what do you mean exactly with they figuring out that they're not, that isn't them? So what stage are we talking that they are?
Let's start at the beginning of recognition that they're in a bad spot, and then figuring out how to move away from that, because a lot of it is just understanding, okay, something is different. This maybe it's a trigger, because someone said something and boom, like they used to be happy, but now this person said something and now it's triggered them into this bad spot. And then understanding, like, once you recognize that, that's the first step to being able to take control again.
I think it's a very difficult question. I feel it's a good question, but it's difficult because depression, anxiety, all the kind of mental health issues that we have sort of defined or that we have labeled, and really they are just labels, are very individual and personal. And that's also what makes it so hard to gauge. Like, there isn't a blood test we can take and we can say, boom, that person has depression, let's do something about it. Not that I'm saying that would be better, but at least there would be an easier definition process. Well, this is very dependent also the people you speak to, the environment you're in. If you are, say, and I'm using depression because I think it's the most relatable one at this stage where we are, in terms of what's out there in the media. So if you're suffering from depression and you are in an environment that is very caring and nurturing, you will get the right response, that someone is listening and taking it seriously, and no one is going to say, well, why don't you just cheer up? Yeah, just get over it. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't pity yourself. You're just in a downward spiral. But if you have these people who say that to you, you become very isolated very, very quickly. And that is the biggest problem of mental health issues, that there is shame and stigma attached, because I can talk from my own experience that I've always been a very strong person. And I've not only have I seen myself as a strong person, but also my friends, my family, I'm the go-to person when something is wrong. My older brother, I always feel like I'm the little one. And for that reason, I always felt I can handle things by myself. I can deal with it. I read a million self-help books on how to get out of like a depressed feeling and what can you do. And I was like, okay, I have to go outside the house. There were times where I wouldn't leave the house for a few days or weeks. I had really dark times where it was just me in my little room in London, and I was just feeling like a waste on this planet because I wasn't contributing to society. And I felt it doesn't matter if I get out of bed. No one is going to say, hey, why is Mari not up? No one cares. And that feeling, to break that was really hard when you think that you can deal with everything by yourself. And I mean, I'm happy to actually share the story. I don't think it's actually on my Instagram, but I had a breakdown about 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. And I was just feeling very, very low, and it wouldn't get better. And I had been asking my GP, so my doctor here, for therapy, and I was on a waiting list, but I hadn't heard from them for months and months and months, and I felt very left alone with it. Some other things happened in my life that I spiraled further down, and I felt I can't deal with this any longer by myself. And I reached out to people, and that's the good thing about me. I'm an oversharer in a sense, which helps you when you feel depressed because you do reach out for help. So I remember crying and calling my ex-boyfriend, who's sort of like my family still here because we're still good friends. And I said, I don't know what to do. I can't handle it. I can't handle this life anymore. And I really didn't see any way out. Now there has been like an attempted suicide where my cousin jumped off a building a few years before. Luckily, we're really glad she's okay. She survived it and that she can walk again. And but that's in my family. And so my ex-boyfriend obviously knew that. And he got very worried about me, which I really didn't want him to be, but it just happened that he was worried. He was at the other side of London. London is very, very big, so it takes you over an hour to get from one side to the other. Yeah. So he could immediately come, and then I decided I won't pick up the phone anymore. I felt like, oh, no one cares. He doesn't, he's not even saying he's coming over. And then suddenly the doorbell rings, and I'm like full of tears and like looking horrible, open the door, and there are 4 policemen in front of the door, and they say, hey, are you Mari? And I was like, yeah. And then they said, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. Like looking, like I've just cried for a week. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we would really like to come in and have a cup of tea with you. And that's when I sort of just backtracked from the door and just let them in and start crying again. And so they came in, only 2 of them. I think once they realized I wasn't covered in blood or whatever, they were like, okay, we only need 2 people here to have a cup of tea. And they were amazing. They were absolutely amazing. We talked for an hour, and the officer had told me about his therapy and how he got into being counseling. And he was like, do you know what? You've tried so hard for such a long time to deal with this by yourself, and we think it's time that you let someone else help. Mm-hmm. And for me, coming from a stranger, that was such a fundamentally important moment, because that's when I realized, you know what, they're right. I can't handle this, and I just need someone to take me by the hand now and take over a little bit and show me that there is so much to live for. And then the paramedics came as well, because they always come on a call like that. So I had another 2 very handsome uniformed men. They were all really handsome. I don't know if I'm making this up retrospectively, like in my head. They were all stunningly beautiful. Yeah. And I wasn't. And then they were like, you know what, we would really like to take you to the hospital, just, for a checkup. And so I was escorted outside, and had my first ambulance ride, and then a psychologist took it from there. And we decided I wasn't going to stay in the hospital because I was stable enough, and friends then looked after me really well. Mm. But the bottom line is that reaching out for help is the number one thing to do. Yeah. And it really feels like the opposite of what you want to do in those situations. But there are professionals who can help, and there are so many hotlines you can even call. They talk to you for hours and hours, and I'm sure you have it in the US as well. Right. There are charities. There are online forums where you can connect. We have, in the UK, we have the Big White Wall, where you just connect anonymously with other people who are suffering, and just to talk about how you feel makes a huge difference. And that's also what I'm doing on the Instagram, to bring it back there. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, when you read the comments, they do share how they feel right now, or they actually send me a message. And I do also send messages and say, hey, I hope you're okay. It's this fundamental, we can care for each other. But people who feel, who find themselves in these vulnerable positions, you need to make one step. It's this one step of reaching out. And that's also the number one advice. Get over this tiny, reach out to someone and say, Hannah, I'm in a really bad place right now. I need help. And there's absolutely no shame in that. But it's the hardest step to do.
Oh, that's absolutely it. And September is being recognized as the National Suicide Prevention Month, which is really interesting that this podcast just, it's taking place now. It's like it was fate. And then I'm a Marine. And how you know that is because I will tell you. You invite any Marine or service member, they will tell you. No, and all kidding aside, but there's an organization called Mission 22, and it's united in the war against veteran suicide as well. And their statistic from the name is that 22 vets commit suicide a day, which is astounding. And one is too many, and just whether it be a vet or anyone. And a lot of it comes from not, like you said, not asking for help. Yeah. Not going out there and saying, I have an issue and I need help. And I'm about to get pretty daggone personal on Pastor Torch podcast. But it's that important to me, and it's about being real and open. But something that a lot of people might not even know about me is that I've suffered from depression for the last 7 years. And it's funny because people who see me, they know and you are too, like, we're very happy people. We smile, we laugh, and what people see, because a lot of the classes are, how do you know someone has depression? Well, they start giving all their stuff away. They start going in a corner by themselves and rocking back and forth. They cry all the time. And I just sit there in these classes and I'm like, you are setting people up for failure. Because it's not true. Everyone who has depression does not start giving up their stuff. Everyone who has depression does not talk to people all the time. Like, yes, that is a symptom, but sitting in this class, me being me and having depression. And I imagine if someone else was telling you, like, this is what it means to have depression, you're like, how do you know? Like,
Yeah.
because you've lived through it, and I'll tell you, 7 years worth of experience. And this is the first time that I've said it in a public forum. My wife knows, my brother and sister know, a few of my closest friends know, but that is it. And I imagine anyone else who's listening. The only people who are probably gonna know too are the people who are listening to the show, because I'm not just gonna go out there and be like, hey, look.
Yeah.
But I felt it was important. We're having this conversation, and I feel actually guilty to a certain degree because no one else knows. That this person sitting in front of them who is very positive, who loves life, still could have depression. You know what I mean? So this is the narrative has to change around it. Is that people with depression don't love life?
It's and also I think people who suffer from depression or anxiety or any of the mental health issues, we're very good at hiding it.
Extremely.
Very good.
Extremely. Yeah.
Hands down. If I don't want somebody to know, you will not know that I'm sad.
Never.
I'm like, I can be the how do you say, the light of the party? No, the center of the party.
The life
whatever
of the party.
You say.
That's it.
In your weird language.
Yes, I colloquialism. Trust me and Eileen, I told her it's raining cats and dogs, and she looked outside like, what's going on? So, yes.
But yeah, it is definitely, especially when it comes to using social media, where we used to just sharing the good things. I'm not going to log on Facebook and say, hey, today I've spent 3 hours staring at the wall and feeling like, why am I alive and what is this all for?
Yeah.
And I'm also not saying everybody needs to say, hey guys, I have depression or I have anxiety.
Yeah.
I just think that the more people can just incorporate it, as in, if I have a broken leg, I'm not going to try and hide that I have a broken leg.
100%. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
Because and to put mental health on the same level as a normal illness or disease or whatever, that is really what I would like to see happening, because we can prevent a lot of very bad stuff just in accepting it in our society, because you will feel less alone. You won't think about, should I tell my employer, my colleagues, my family, what will they think?
Yeah.
You take that pressure away, because it's enough to deal with depression or PTSD or any of those things by itself. You don't need the whole world to put another burden on you.
It's something that also hits people really hard, but having depression myself and then having family members who've had cancer, I've actually compared the two. And I think depression is kind of like a cancer of the soul. But
absolutely,
when people have cancer, no one ever victimizes them. It's like, oh, that's horrible. So if you were to take the same mindset, like, well, just get over it. I've never heard someone say just get over cancer. They say, okay, we've got to treat you. But when it comes to depression, it's, oh, just go outside, just take a walk, you'll feel better. Never heard that said about cancer. Just try to smile. Oh, everybody has cancer. I've never heard that about cancer.
Yeah.
But when you say you're depressed or you have depression, well, everybody's depressed sometimes. Well, I've never heard everybody has cancer sometimes.
That's actually something that reminds me. So when my cousin jumped off this building when she was having depression, she was then in a coma and in critical care for a while, and we were, as a family, were thinking, oh, what are the surgeons thinking that have operated on her for 18 hours? That, you have people who are in a car crash who they try and put back together, and then you have someone who deliberately, damaged their body massively. Will they treat it in a different way? And we had a chat with one of the leading surgeons, and he said, you know what, I have learned in my career that depression can be as fatal as cancer. That's what he said. It is an illness that can lead to death.
Right.
And that's not up to choice. That's not that someone says, oh, I want to end my life now. It's never like that.
Right.
It is something that gets into your mind, that takes over, that you have no control over it. And that person deserves just as much to be cared for in, if there is a suicide attempt in critical care and for surgery and all those kind of things with the same passion and compassion.
Right.
Than someone who has cancer or who has been in a car accident. There is absolutely no difference. But as you say, we as a society make the difference,
right.
And I think the more we can do in the media, the better to help change that.
Conversations like this are an absolute start, and I will be pushing all of my audience and the audiences of my audiences and the audience of their audiences to your work and to your Instagram and to anything that you do, because it's important. And as long as those other voices are the only available ones and the ones that are right there, that's what people are exposed to, and that's what they see as true. So I'll definitely be doing that.
Awesome.
Well, let's see. We've talked a lot about mentorship, and I know people are like, well, okay, Mari is absolutely amazing. I would be a runner for her any day. You don't have to pay. You can pay me even negative. If someone wanted to be your mentee or wanted you to be their mentor, Mari, how would they go about that, and what would you set as your expectation?
I would say approach me on Instagram first of all, because that is my main way of communicating these days.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about your situation, and even if it's not me being in the right position to help you, I'm always very happy to connect to other people as well, because I have a wide creative network in London and partly in Germany. So whatever it is, or if you just want to say, hey, I'm also feeling a bit blue today, I feel both ways.
Yeah.
I'm very approachable, and I'm very happy about any message I get. And as in expectations, look, it always comes down to the individual and what you both make of it. So, the sky's the limit. Who knows? Yeah,
I love it. Cool. So you're obviously doing a lot of things, and you have to be organized. You have to have focus. What is a tool that you use that contributes to your success that you would recommend to the audience?
A tool, God.
It can be anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely anything.
What? Sorry, I didn't get that.
It can be anything, like I use Slack, Calendly, any tools or anything like that. It can be a book, absolutely any type of resource.
Okay. I actually do something that is called visualization.
I love it.
And some people are into it, some people are not. For me, I have a vivid imagination, which I guess comes with the filmmaking part of me. And for me, it's sitting down with myself and checking in with myself that I still know what my goals are and whether I am on track. I think the number one problem we all face at times is that we go on autopilot in our daily life, so we just do things and we kind of forget a little bit what are the things that matter to us and what do we actually want to achieve. And for me, I have established this very clearly with myself. At least once a week I need to sit down and go over my goals and check whether I'm actually still pursuing them or if I've been sidetracked by myself somehow. And with that, it comes that I see myself in the positions that I want to be and I visualize it. I also meditate. But that's also not for everyone. I meditate in a very weird way. I don't like it being quiet, so I hum.
Yeah.
I used to be a singer. I used to do jazz concerts back in the day. And so singing for me is just something that's really freeing. So once I realized that I can put myself into a very happy place when I just sit there with myself and I just hum these weird tunes that come deeply from within myself. And then think about my goals and where I want to be in life. Yeah. That makes me not only happy, but also keeps me on track.
That is awesome. I'm definitely for both visualization and meditation. I used to think meditation, I was like, oh, it's like a hippie thing. Sorry
Yeah.
if I offend anybody, but it's powerful. If you can actually just get over how it might seem weird at first and do it, visualizing your goals, and then you start looking around and your life starts to look exactly how you're visualizing in your mind, and you're focused, and you're making sure even when you're off track, like you said, you start veering to left and right, you make sure you're back on center, and that's a great tool to do that.
And you see opportunities.
Yes.
You cheat yourself to see where a door opens.
Definitely. So, I know, there's a humming. Do you have a poem or a mantra or something that you read every day or whenever times get hard that keeps your passion on fire?
I do. And this is something, so I've started running positive mindset workshops with friends, just so that where we all sit together and we share where we want to be and we envision it. And I've developed this little thing where we write a personal prayer. Now, it has nothing to do with religion as such, but it is for you a little mantra. And for me, it starts with, I'm open to receive, I radiate love and success.
Yeah.
I surround myself with authentic people who love and support me. And that's sort of where, and there are a few more specifics about an attractive gorgeous that I'm going to speak soon, but I spare you those details. But for me, it's always what you seek is seeking you. You know,
that's awesome.
What you surround yourself is who you are. Like, it's really important that we understand that we're nurturing ourselves with whatever is around us. So if you're in a bad environment, you're not going to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that theme keeps coming up, and I say this quote. This is another one. This quote, besides chills, the Jim Rohn quote, which you reminded me of. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and that kind of goes with the theme. You are who you surround yourself. You are what your environment is. So you have to change those things in order to be where you want to be, or be the type of person you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Wow, this was a powerful episode. We've talked about comedy, art, but then we went into very deep and personal conversations and discussion about body image and mental health. And I hope anyone who's listening know that you can reach out to Mari and myself about any of that, and know that you're not alone. And there's someone who's out there who is dealing with the same thing you're dealing with, and you can talk to and relate to them, and don't be afraid. It is actually a sign of strength to reach out and get help. It takes more strength to do that than just to sit there alone, and that's hard. I'm not trying to minimize how hard that is, because that's probably one of the most scary things to do, but please do it. Please reach out. And with that, we're at the time of our program, the Pass the Torch portion, where our guest has 1 minute to pass the torch and leave a legacy.
Oh, God.
We all know that a mentor is a person who has achieved a level of success that we desire and can effectively guide us to success as well. Based on the success you, Mari, have achieved at this point in your life, if you could pass the torch and leave a legacy message to your former self and anyone in a similar situation, how would you pass the torch in 1 hot minute?
All right. I would say to myself, and I would love to go back actually and tell her to not worry. That is so important to me. Stop worrying. It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't do anything good, and don't compare yourself to others. Don't think about how quickly they have achieved their goals. It doesn't matter. You're never too old to change direction. You are, if you are at the age of 21 and you think, oh my God, it's all over because I haven't gotten an Oscar yet, that is fine, because you might get it at the age of 45. It doesn't matter. So stop worrying about these things. Go where your bliss is. Go where the flow is, and just be happy. Enjoy the ride. And that is it. In less than a minute.
Dropped the mic. Mari dropped the mic. That is amazing. So, this was a value-filled and a deep and powerful episode of Pass the Torch podcast. You were with Levante Santos and the one and only Mari, reminding you to seek knowledge and pass the torch.
Thank you, guys.